Well, this week's movie is Spaceballs.
Yes, it is.
Though, as
And-
Dwayne The Rock Hudson says, more like space ass.
Wow.
Well, we'll find out how everyone else thought about it. But
Yeah.
Nick, this was your choice.
Spaceballs is a Mel Brooks style parody movie about like Star Wars, a little Star Trek, just kind of like space movies of that era, mostly Star Wars.
Mostly Star Wars.
It is about Princess Vespa. It starts off, she doesn't want to get married to Prince Valium, who's a very sleepy prince, the only prince in the galaxy.
Sleepy.
So she hightails it out. She leaves the wedding, and her father, the king of Druidia, the planet, asks Lone Star and Barf, a human and a Mog, he's half man, half dog, his own best friend, in like a Han Solo Chewbacca kind of characters, to go fly in their space Winnebago and rescue her. But on the way, or while she is leaving, she gets captured by the Spaceballs, who is like the Empire. And their whole deal is their planet Spaceball, is out of air. So they want to take all the air from the princess's home planet of Druidia and transport it to planet Spaceball.
As one does.
So they want to capture her to use her as leverage to get the air. And it all happens like that.
It does indeed.
It all happens like
A lot of
that.
fun, dumb throwaway jokes. Some of my favorite jokes in movie history are in this movie.
Oh, wow.
The radar one is a classic. I love the jam one the best. Michael Winslow is just incredible.
What about combing the desert?
Combing the desert is probably one of my favorite jokes of all time.
There was a lot of dad level jokes in this film. I figured that Nick would love it lots.
I've always loved this movie. This has always been one of my favorite parody type of movies.
Really?
Yes.
Still feel that way?
I didn't laugh as much. Like, I still laughed at all the jokes that I knew that I loved. But I didn't find myself enjoying the movie as a whole as much as I used to. I mean, I probably haven't seen this movie since I was a kid or teenager. But also, I've seen this movie so many times that I don't know if there's anything left that would surprise me with this movie. Like, even like dumb little throwaway jokes that I had noticed maybe a little more this time, but they weren't really as funny as the main ones, you know? It's a fine movie. I think it's okay, you know? I don't know if it's my favorite parody movie ever, but solid jokes for the most part.
This was, I mean, and the crazy thing is Mel Brooks is still with us. He's 99 years old. He sounds like they want to make a sequel to this, but this kind of came near the end of his string of parodies or comedies that he started, you know, going back into the 70s. This was kind of the end of the line, which is crazy to say given it's almost 40 years old.
Well, it was, and he's made more movies after that, but he had that his peak, so to speak, was in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, when he had, you know, two absolute classics, you know, that are both now on the film registry, which is Young Frankenstein, which we've done, and The Producers. And you know, and
what about Blazing Saddles?
And three Blazing Saddles, and those were all early 70s, early to mid 70s. This movie is a late 80s movie, and in fact is probably was. And I looked up sort of what I wrote about this at the time. Cool. I say sort of because I could only find like a little blurb and not the whole review. But basically what I wrote was, it's a Star Wars parody that's, why are you doing it 15 years after Star Wars came out, right? 12, you know, it needed to be a little closer to the time, and that I thought it was really hit and miss satire, but still kind of fun. That's what I wrote then, and watching it again, I kind of think the same thing. But the other thing that I noted was some of the jokes you guys would never even get. Maybe John might get, but that are just completely out of date, right?
Like what? You got an example?
Yeah, here's the C-3PO robot type that was with her. Dot Matrix.
Oh, yeah, I got that one, like the printer.
Okay, a lot of people don't even know that where he when Mel Brooks as the president walks up to those two women that look the same and can't get their and he says, "Enjoy your gum." Well, Double Mint gum, that was their advertising forever.
That I've never understood that joke. I thought they were just two girls that he liked.
No, it was like making fun of the gum ads, right? But if you're today, you would have no clue, and then it's like,
well, but even in 1987, it's not they really Double Mint gum hadn't really been doing a lot of that. So your point about this movie maybe being a few years too late. I mean, we're talking 1987. The last Star Wars film of the original trilogy was 4 years earlier, and it kind of missed that hot spot because obviously you had Star Wars. Star Trek started their run. And I know that there were still Star Trek movies, around this time and a little bit after, but it felt like this would have hit a little better if this would have come out in like 1984 or 1985, because there was such a hype of space movies at that time. And this was almost like, to parody a Western in the 1990s after Westerns had kind of gone by the wayside.
Yeah, or at least run out of steam. And I think that's,
yeah.
What do you think about this?
Was part of it at the time, but the other thing, I guess that I don't know if this is the problem with it, is unlike some of his other parody movies, this one had such a rigid adherence almost to the Star Wars plot that it made it pretty obvious what was going to happen in a, obviously funny parody sense, but there was not any great surprise that way in it either.
So I was texting with a friend last night. He asked me what we were doing today, and I told him that we were doing Spaceballs. And he said, forgot where I read it, but someone wrote about it and said you could tell that Mel Brooks didn't grow up loving the sci-fi genre like he did horror and Westerns, which is why Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles are much better. I wonder if you've ever heard that as well, because and I haven't given my opinion. I thought it was fairly average. Like, I remember growing up seeing it, and I'm a huge Star Wars guy, so I went in really excited because I think I saw this around the time of like Scary Movie coming out, which I also loved those movies. I thought that they were very funny, and I went in wanting to love it. Like a friend recommended it because of basically the first scene when the ship just. I mean, I should have clocked it. I mean, what's that? A 2-minute ship?
That is, and then with the bumper sticker, that's a great gag.
It's a pretty funny
hilarious.
way to. And so I remember him telling me about it. I was like, wow, that sounds like a really funny movie. And I remember as a kid not thinking it was all that, but I figured, okay, it was just because I was a kid and I didn't maybe understand the senses of humor of everything. And so I went in pretty excited to watch it over the weekend, and I was pretty disappointed by it. I don't know how much of it's because he did or didn't love science fiction movies, but I wonder if you think that could be the case, Kent.
No. Oh, I think it would be entirely possible that that would.
That was weird.
Who did that? It's entirely possible. But I remember where Mel Brooks came from. Okay, he's almost 100 years old, right? He was born in the 20s, the 1920s. He started in his career in early television in the 50s, and first stand-up comedy and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Before television. So you're talking about a guy who there weren't, quote, sci-fi pictures in the 20s.
Yeah.
And the 30s and 40s, right? They didn't same age as my mother, basically. Or my mom turned 97 today. Okay, so they don't have the same movie background, right?
Whereas Westerns have been around forever.
Westerns have been around forever.
Yeah.
Right? Horror movies of a sort have been around forever, right? But your sci-fi pictures and those things, they weren't watching those, Yeah. So that wasn't part of his past. And the other thing that is rooted is he came up with Get Smart, the parody spy TV show, right? The bum.
Yeah.
So he'd been doing these parodies for 25 years or more before he did this movie. So part of it is he may have just run out of, not every one of them is going to be great. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, I would say, it's not Blazing Saddles. It's not Young Frankenstein. But I always enjoyed the parts with the Spaceballs. I thought Rick Moranis was
very funny. Yeah,
Rick Moranis was tremendous. I mean, it's the I was thinking about this because the first time you see, and he plays the Darth Vader ripoff character, Dark Helmet. Mm-hmm. I think they missed an opportunity when they debut him and the door opens, and you can already tell he's undersized. But if they would have played it a little bit different, where they would have played the old hero camera, where they get the camera down low and make it look like he was this big menacing figure. And then the music hits the crescendo and he's about ready to do something. And then the camera cuts away and you realize this dude's only like 5 feet, 3 inches tall or something like that. Stuff like that. I was kind of nitpicking here, but I loved the segments, with him. The part where and I know this is a little dated because it's almost 40 years old, but when they realize that they can just pop in the Spaceballs VHS tape,
I love that,
and fast forward to find out where the good guys are so they can recapture the princess. I always enjoyed that gag, especially when they get to the part where Dark Helmet crashes into the front of the deal because the ship breaks fast and
they've gone plaid.
I always liked that part. So to me, the best parts of the movie always involved the Spaceballs, the Dark Helmet character, the President Scrooge character, Mel Brooks, and the Colonel Sanders, which again, another, obvious, plug on something. I just, those are the parts of the movie that always hit for me. The rest of it, hit or miss, but those parts always hit for me.
We can kind of branch this off into a larger conversation about the fight they kind of got in with George Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
But after they find yogurt on that planet, and he's like, merchandising, and then he talks about like Spaceballs, the flamethrower, Spaceballs, the this, and that. After that point in the movie, whenever you're on the Spaceball ship, you start seeing that merchandise just kind of everywhere. Sometimes it's really obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's just kind of like off to the side, but it's always Spaceballs the towel or Spaceballs the toothbrush. And I thought that was incredibly well done. Like they introduce this idea and then you just start seeing it, but they just kind of peppered it in. That was really fun. But, and somebody mentioned this in the chat earlier. Can't see who scrolled past it. But Ken, wasn't there some issues when this movie came out with the merchandising and Star Wars and the company that owned the rights to like the Star Wars action figures?
Yeah, well, it was George Lucas owned all of it, really, and he was like, "Yeah, go ahead and make the parody. That's fine. It'll be funny, but you can't do action figures. You can't do merchandise because it'll look just like mine, basically, right? And you're not going to be selling merchandise." And that, I think Mel was not thrilled by that decision, although I doubt he was planning merchandise, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
right.
So then he comes up with this, and I think that's one of the best things in the movie is sticking it to let's put it this way. The first time I saw it back in the 80s, I didn't know that about the agreement with Lucas not to do the merchandising. I just thought he was just making massive fun of these movie companies that depend on at that time, that merch was a lot of their profit, right?
Yeah.
Huge profit.
In the billions, they were making, a lot of their profit. They were still making a lot of profit, but merch was a bigger percentage, let's say, than the TV revenues and all that, because you didn't have the cable. So the merch was a bigger deal. And so every crappy movie had merch for a while. And so I thought he was really making fun of that. And I really thought, as you said, it was real cleverly done. Spaceballs, the tablet.
And I think, I mean, the 1620 is that loosely kind of based off of that concept?
Is what?
When we have, how we have like 1620 the whatever?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't.
No, not really. I mean, that was just
us being dorks.
I always figured it was like a loose connection.
Not really. Not particularly, but
yeah, Chance says the merchandising is probably the most evergreen joke in the film. Yeah, I mean that still hits all these years later, and it probably always will.
This joke does still have a lot of This movie does still have a lot of jokes that really hit with me. Chance is quoting it. The combination is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like that's the idiot would have on their luggage.
Yeah, and then later
that's the combination of my luggage.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, a lot of people also mentioning the combing the desert scene being their favorite. That was because I had remembered the fast forwarding scene. I'd remembered the I see your Schwartz is as big as mine, and I had remembered the spaceship being really, really big. I had forgotten about the luggage, and that one was very, very good.
I really like the alien joke too. When they're at that diner and they got the special.
Again, not again.
Hilarious that he was just down to do that, and he's like, "Yeah, oh no, not again." A lot of really good meta humor in this movie. Not a whole lot of it, but there's some really good meta humor.
So it seems like we're all kind of in the same boat, right, John? I guess you haven't said. Are you kind of like, it's fine, or do you really like it?
But I mean, it's never going to hit as funny as it did when you see it the first time. And I saw this in the theater, as I recall, in 1987. But then I saw it several times on cable after that. But this was the first time I had seen it in quite some time. And yeah, jokes are never going to hit as funny when you already know what's coming. But there were some of them that still were like pretty funny. I've always had a soft spot for this movie. I've always had a soft spot for all of Mel Brooks's stuff. Some of it is excellent. This doesn't, again, this isn't Blazing Saddles. This isn't Young Frankenstein. This isn't even History of the World Part 1, which is one of my favorite movies.
I love the Ten Commandments joke.
I think History of the World Part 1 was like maybe this might have been the next movie after that.
Yeah, because it was like early 80s, 81, 82.
History of the World Part 1 came out in 81. Did we do that?
No, but we should.
Okay. I thought we did during COVID, John. We didn't do History of the World.
I brought down these 15 10 Commandments. I love that joke so much.
But yeah, it's not going to rate that high, but I've always enjoyed it. I always will. It's fairly funny. It did what it needed to do. It spoofed, everything that was happening here. One question I had for you, Kent, was, Bill Pullman obviously had greater success down the road. This was already when John Candy was, becoming a star. Rick Moranis obviously had been well established. Are you surprised that Daphne Zugina, right? Yeah. That she didn't become a bigger star? I mean, I know she was in Melrose Place for a few years, but you didn't really hear much about her after this.
She went the mom route.
Oh, okay.
So,
I think she wanted a little more. I saw this blurb on her Wikipedia page earlier. I just did a quick skim. But I think she wanted roles with a little more substance too. But in the 80s.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah, you get to a certain age if you're a woman and like time to play a mom.
Yeah. Time to play a mom. Or she's like, a lot of those movies from the 80s or whatever, like Porky's kind of movies. And I always
got the impression watching this, especially when I watched it the first time, was, this is the the person who's, that they're trying to push to become a bigger star, right?
Oh, I would think that was true. Bill Pullman was kind of an accidental casting. I don't think they could get who they wanted for this, but they landed, because remember at that time, this was Rick Moranis and Candy were probably two of the hottest comedic actors going. Yeah. And so that let them get away with casting the relatively unknown Bill Pullman at the time. And, let's make this ingenue, as the old word used to be, a star kind of casting. So, and there were some other people like Stephen Tobolowsky. Do you know who he is? He's this great, hilarious character actor. He was the, what do you want to call it?
Oh yeah, I love that guy. He's hilarious.
The captain who was
he was in Groundhog Day.
who was with the caught the stunt
stunt doubles.
Yes.
Yeah, he's in that movie for what, a minute, but he's gone on to be pretty. Every time he's in something, he's funny and it's good. No, even if the movie's crap, he's good.
Yeah, he's funny. I like that guy.